Time once again for another edition of the Red, Gold, and Bold. Jeff Chadiha, Sam McDowell, Soren, Petro with you as we talk some Chiefs football. Time to get at it. How does Patrick Mahomes look? Did Andy Reid get a little testy about the under the center questions? Any tangible evidence of the impact of Eric Bieniemy's absence right now? The fans were freaking out about Xavier and Cyrus going down over the weekend. What do we make of that? Did Andy Reid? I mentioned something jumping around. There was an example. When the screen jumps, you have that problem. How is the offensive line looking? Anybody impressing early on this football team? Kelce's conditioning. Is there a conditioning problem or is there not? We'll talk about it right now here on the Red, Gold, and Bold.
You are listening to the Red, Gold, and Bold podcast, the most in-depth analysis of the Kansas City Chiefs on planet Earth, breaking down the Chiefs like no one else can. Red, Gold, and Bold is hosted by Jeff Chadiha, Sam McDowell, and Soren Petro. Jeff Chadiha is a senior columnist and on-air personality for the NFL Network and NFL.com. Sam McDowell is a columnist for the Kansas City Star. Soren Petro is the afternoon drive host of the program on Sports Radio 810 WHB in Kansas City. The Red, Gold, and Bold podcast is proudly brought to you by Gann Asphalt and Concrete, Kansas City's nationally recognized full-service paving and pavement maintenance contractor, making parking lot problems disappear in Kansas City since 1994. Free consultations, no commissions, in-house crews, and every project comes with a written warranty. Find them online at GannAsphalt.com or call 816-484-3338. Gann Asphalt and Concrete, one contractor, all things parking lot. Now, here are the hosts of the Best Chiefs podcast, Jeff Chadiha, Sam McDowell, and Soren Petro.
Thank you very much, Curtis. We do appreciate it. Off and running here on a Tuesday night. If you're catching us via the podcast, remember you can be a part of the conversation as we stream live Tuesday nights at 9:30 p.m. We go Friday mornings at 10 a.m. If you'd like to be a part of the conversation, I already got a number of people lining up in the comments section, I should say, here. So look for that if you want to be a part of it. Get in here on the live broadcast at some point, guys. Let's get started. The biggest question of all is Patrick Mahomes. We've now seen him go out. We've seen him get into the pads. How's he look, Sam?
You're muted.
In case anyone didn't think they were alive.
Yeah. Just don't do that because I've got there's like a technical. I've been technically dumped on tonight. I'm gonna tell you, like, don't count on any rockets reaching the moon if you can't send me a 6-digit code. Okay, I'm going to say that. So up Twitter's ass is where I will start with this. But then we also have this little bug where every now and then I go mute. And so I was terrified that that's what was happening right here on the shoot. And I was going to be like, that's it. I'm calling it off for tonight. No podcast tonight. So I'm glad it was just Sam hit the mute button. I feel better.
My end. Yeah, I think Patrick looks mostly like himself. I mean, what's most telling to me is the Chiefs playbook has included a lot of him rolling out, a lot of him lining up under center. Like they're treating it as though he's healthy. Like there are no limitations. And this morning, he threw a ball that's about as good as I've seen him throw in a minute. And it was an under center play, a quick release to where Tyquan Thornton was in the slot. He hits him on sort of a fade route in the middle of play. And Chris Roland Wallace afterwards just basically threw up his hands. Like, I can't defend that throw. And so I think he's looked good. He's entertaining as always. I would say that I've seen him scramble less. But I also don't think that's necessarily a sign of the injury. I think it's a sign of his purpose and believing that he scrambled too frequently a year ago.
Yeah, I mean, I think that could be like I actually take that as a positive, right, Jeff? I mean, I think at some point we know he's not going to be able to scramble, and I would think that part of what they want to do is have this offense not rely on him having to scramble, right? Like being able to get things done. Like everything can't be either whether it's him not making the reads and getting rid of the ball, or it's them not having anyone open and him having to scramble. They've got to find ways to play the game on time.
Yeah, he's been very open about wanting to do that. And he said that back in his first press conference when the training camp started, when he talked about just
Only press conference.
yeah, only press conference. Fans taking this personally, yeah, his only press conference. But he mentioned just the need. He probably ran too much last year. Yeah, I remember him talking about coming back from the injury when he dislocated his knee and being mindful of getting his knee out of harm's way on certain plays. And look, I think watching him today, he looked pretty good for where he's at in this process. Look, as someone, again, who's had this injury before, not surprised he does a lot of fiddling with that brace. He was always be reaching down and pushing it around and then adjusting it, certainly because when you're sweating and it gets hot out, those things move around. But like Sam said, like seeing the under center stuff, seeing the condensed formations they're working on, seeing a lot more under center stuff, that is what we were hoping would happen in this process. And I know we'll talk about Andy in a second here in the play calling, but it is a good sign that he is acting as if he needs to be playing football a different way moving forward in his career.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. And that I think that's the maturity of a quarterback, right, Sam, is that we're watching him, go out there. And I think he's always had that. I go back to when he threw some interceptions early on when he first came in, when he was a rookie and we knew he wasn't going to start. And that was what was so different between him and Alex Smith. I mean, when Alex Smith first came in, I remember talking to Andy Reid. It was at the indoor facility. I don't know where we were. I don't know why we were in the indoor facility. Maybe they'd just gotten back from St. Joe, but it was in the indoor facility at Arrowhead, and saying like, I'm urging him to go ahead, push the envelope, see how far you can go, send the ball down the field. And because that's what Andy Reid wants. He wants you to see how far you can go before you get burned. And Patrick Mahomes is always willing to do that. Even as a guy who's probably thinking in the back of his mind, if I look really good here, maybe I can be the number one guy. And he went out and played it exactly the way the coaches told him to play it. So if they have instructed him, hey, you've got to evolve now, you've got to become a pocket passer, then I think we're seeing a guy execute the orders that he's been given, right? I mean, I think that's a strong sign for, I would think, that they're on the same page, coach and quarterback.
Yeah, in training camp, because to me, and Soren used the phrase earlier, on time. Like Patrick Mahomes can stay on this schedule if the Chiefs offense stays on schedule, because the reason that Patrick Mahomes scrambles is because that's frequently the only option. And this is where it goes back to the running game. It goes hand in hand. It's harder for receivers to get open when there's 7 defensive backs and the secondary on every play, and they don't ever bite on play action. Theoretically, with the better running game, your receivers should have an easier time getting open as well. Against man-to-man, when you have a linebacker bite, there should be one-on-one coverage. So if that doesn't happen, though, I think you're going to see a quarterback who's competitive as hell still try and make plays. If they want Patrick Mahomes to scramble less, that's on them more than it is on him. Yeah.
Do you think it'll stick to the regular season, Jeff? I mean, we like what we see right now, but is it going to play beyond this?
Well, you hope it would, and a lot depends on the playmakers around him. I mean, for me, a lot of this comes down to what they had around him last year, and that was exposed when he got hurt. The supporting cast wasn't as good, and there are still questions about that supporting cast. And so, the best offenses generally have great weapons to work with. And if you look at whether that's the Rams or, you look at what Dallas has, or you look at what Philadelphia's had in the past, all these teams, Green Bay, Detroit, they have a lot of guys who are very dynamic, who go to Pro Bowls, who become all-pro players. And right now, the Chiefs don't have a lot of that right now. And so what are those players going to do? I think we know Mahomes is going to be ready to play, and he's going to do all the right things. But if these players can't deliver for him, yeah, they probably will get back to some of the hero ball stuff, because that's what they always rely on when things aren't going well with the other guys around him.
Yeah, I mean, that's, there's Michael Lewis wrote like an addendum in the New Yorker to Moneyball about how guys will go do new things and it all looks great when they're practicing, but when as soon as they start to struggle, they revert back to what it is they've always known. And is that what we see? Is that, okay, we're down 21-0, I got to go hero ball here, and then he doesn't have it when he tries to do it. So, but I also think as much as he was having to scramble, that is a sign that the offense was stale. I know we're not going to really see what the new formation, I shouldn't say formation, the new scheme is and how it's all going to evolve. We did hear him, Sam, get asked about how many times they're under center. and he cut the question off and said, I know where you're going, under center, play action. You know, it's going to be a mix. That's how it works best. It's going to be a mix. What did you take away from the way he answered the question and what his answer was?
Yeah, I think he's been asked some form of that question like 4 times. Like every time he's been at the lectern up in St. Joe. And to me, it's like pretty simple. Why would a head coach show his hand in training camp and tell the rest of the league what he plans on doing? It actually reminds me of, there was a reaction on social media to Steve Spagnuolo saying earlier this training camp that Shamari Connor could still factor into the slot at cornerback, which obviously the three of us have talked about. That's not his best position. He's much better at safety. Shamari Connor has not taken a single snap in front of the media at slot. He's only taken snaps at safety. But why would Steve Spagnuolo tell the rest of the league exactly what his lineup is going to be in week 1? It doesn't make any sense. Why give away intel to the Denver Broncos? That's where Andy Reid is too. That's why he's cutting those questions off, is because he's hoping the joke takes care of him having to answer that seriously. Stephen St. John asked him, Soren, like 3 or 4 days ago, and we're going to run every play. You know, when somebody asked him if he's going to run, he asked him if he's going to run the ball more. Yeah, we're just going to run every play. He's not going to answer if he's going to run the ball more. You have to take your cues from watching every single play of training camp. And those cues show that they're lining up under center a lot more than they have been in the past. That even during the passing portion of camp before the pads came on yesterday, they're still running the ball in those drills. If you want to look at those signs, I think you can, but like, you can't read into his answer because there's just no point in giving anything away.
Trey Smith gave a philosophical, not a here's what we did last year, this is what we're going to do this year, but he gave a philosophical answer a couple days ago, Jeff, where he said, yeah, running the ball, you know, he quoted a symposium, I think he called it, with Steve Hutchinson was talking, and he said, you know, the pass rusher needs to earn the right to rush the quarterback, right? And let's not just give it to them by throwing on every down to where they can go. They got to earn the right, and they earn the right by stopping the run. And, you know, and I think we've heard that from him. We've definitely heard it from Brett Veach in and around the draft and personnel times, and talking about taking advantage of their interior 3 and how powerful they are. You know, anything to make of Trey Smith verbalizing it that way. I mean, I think it does. I think Sam just laid it out there. What they're practicing would lead us to believe that that's where they're going. And I do think that Trey Smith saying that's not just an offensive lineman, you know, like, oh, we like run blocking. That's more fun when we get a fire out. I mean, I think there is clearly a theme. I think we haven't heard Andy Reid scared everybody back. I think it was the owners meeting, Sam, when he said like, well, Kenneth Walker can run from the shotgun too. And everyone's like, oh my God, here we go. Right. Yeah, but exactly. Everything else around Andy Reid has pointed towards, we're going to get more of a 49ers Rams style running game. And I think that vibe is there when you hear Trey Smith talk that way.
Yeah, I mean, I think what Trey Smith was saying is what every offensive lineman wants to say, which is they want to run the ball and push people around and wear people out. And that's just an offensive lineman's just mentality. But I think the real question about the Chiefs is not just are they going to run it more, but are they going to establish more of a running identity, which to me is what the Rams do and what the Niners do and what the Bears do with Ben Johnson. And they pretty much say our run game is going to open up everything for us. And I don't know if Andy is ready to go there yet. And that's what I want to see. Like, how much are you going to really take the ball out of your quarterback's hands and put it into the hands of a Kenneth Walker or a DeMarcado, whoever else is in the backfield? Because that's when you really see the differences happening. I mean, you see the Rams, they use Puka Nacua in the run game with all the reverses and jet sweep stuff. The Niners were doing that with Deebo Samuel back in the day. He's back there now for that. And so, yeah, I mean, it's nice to mix in runs, but if you really want to actually have this work, you got to commit to it. And that's what I'm not sure is going to happen just yet.
And I don't think we're not going to find that out until week 1. I don't think you can find that out in the preseason. I don't think you can find out, even though I'm sitting here observing every play of training camp. I think you could have signs, but you know, they do walkthroughs separately that aren't, you know, publicly available, nor are they available for the media to watch. Like, there's ways they'll hide what their actual plans are with their scheme. Now, you also, during the full contact, like, you want to get in the plays that you're going to be running in the regular season. So, like, these signs aren't nothing. but they're not necessarily everything either. And look, to what Jeff said, he's right about, this is the way you can open things up for your quarterback. And I think what Andy Reid has to ask himself is, would I rather have Patrick Mahomes throwing the ball 35 times a game when the defense knows it's coming on 30 of them? Or would I rather have him throwing the ball 28 times and the defense doesn't know it's coming on half of them, maybe? You're going to have a much more effective quarterback, even though it seems like you're taking the ball out of his hands. I would actually argue that you're putting the ball back in his hands as most effective.
To run effectively, do they have to practice the run, though? It's always been a very heavy lean to practicing the passing plays because he wants to get that coordination, the feel and the chemistry of the routes. Is he going to have to sacrifice some of that to get the chemistry of the run game together, Jeff?
Oh, I believe in that. And to be honest with you, a few more fights in practice or some fights, period, in practice would be nice. Just to get guys, the teams that do it, there's not a surprise. When Aaron Donald was with the Rams, they were fighting all the time because they were lining up, they were going to run at people. And that's when he got fired up. And you see some of the other teams when they go, I know the Chiefs don't do this, do joint practices, but that's when you really see a lot of that attitude come out. I mean, there's a nastiness that comes with running the football. And you're right, the Chiefs are very much West Coast oriented, going back to the old Bill Walsh way of doing things, where it's very artistic and very intellectual, the approach to it. And they've always been considered to be a softer team by a lot of teams in the league. It's no secret that people thought they could push them around for a lot of years, but now they got to change that mentality and get into this sense of like, we are going to be a mean, nasty team, not just a team that's going to run it more, but a team that's going to just kick people's asses. And I think that is going to that's where the change will happen.
That's Jeff Chadiha. Pro violence is what he is.
I'm all about it. That's right.
Pro. It is a violent game. This would be a place where you can do that. All right, we want to talk about Eric Bieniemy's absence. Are we seeing it on the practice field? The widespread panic that took over the city for about 2 hours. It looked like a couple of the wide receivers are down. We'll do it after you hear from our friends at Gann. If your property needs asphalt or concrete work, Gann Asphalt and Concrete is ready to help you. From parking lots and drive lanes to sidewalks, curbs, patching, seal coating, crack filling, and repairs. Their experienced crews handle projects of all sizes throughout the entire Kansas City metro. Whether you're fixing problem areas or planning a larger paving project, Gann focuses on quality workmanship and dependable service from start to finish. No matter what shape your pavement is in today, they can help improve it. Request a free estimate and learn more at GannAsphalt.com. Gann Asphalt and Concrete. One contractor, all things parking lots. Italian Delight was the first restaurant to bring true New York-style pizza to Kansas City almost 50 years ago. They sell whole pies or pizza by the slice, or enjoy their classic strombolis, calzones, and sausage rolls. Sandwich lovers, check out their lineup of hot and cold subs, the combo, the meatball, or the Philly cheesesteak, just to name a few. And don't forget the pasta. Their famous lasagna and classic chicken Alfredo always hit the spot. And if you're hungry for lunch, check out their daily lunch specials, starting at under $10. Italian Delight can even cater your next work function or party. Dine in, carry out, or delivery, it's Italian Delight. Located just 3 minutes east of Kansas Speedway at 8145 State Ave in KCK. Check out the menu and order online at ItalianDelightKS.com. Kansas City's own Italian Delight. Sam, we'll talk a little bit here about the fact that we all agree the Eric Bieniemy life situation is by far the biggest thing. I think it bears repeating here, and we certainly want them to take care of the family first and foremost. On the football side back here, are we seeing spots? Is there a way to tell whether or not they're missing Eric Bieniemy? We've talked about the emotion and the energy that he would bring, the accountability he would bring. Are you seeing a lack of that? Are you seeing somebody else maybe pick up the slack for him in that, or a team that just practiced sharper because maybe they know they've got to circle the wagons and Bieniemy's not going to be there to get it done?
Yeah, I mean, I think I said last week that like this was the time of the year that you wanted Eric Bieniemy to reestablish the standard and culture that you thought you had before, that you thought had slipped over the past few years. I think you've seen every coach take on more responsibility from what I understand, as far as, behind the scenes and whatnot. Eric Bieniemy is still talking to the team. And I thought Joe Blameyer said one of the most interesting things today about it, because he's the pass game coordinator who's now taken on the offensive coordinator role during the training camp. And I've said this before, and pound my fist on the table for his ability to do that job. Like, Joe Blameyer can do that job But he said something really interesting about the fact that he's thought about, like, Eric Bieniemy's voice is like in the back of his mind. And one occasion, it's like, are things going smoothly? And he's like, well, wait a minute. He wouldn't want things to be going smoothly. He'd want things to be challenging for these guys. And when it's challenging, that means it's not just going to be going smoothly on every play. You're going to be getting the best out of guys because you're going to be pushing them.
Yeah, that's how do you think you pick up? Early on, everybody's on their P's and Q's. I mean, there's kind of like you got the new boss in town, everybody's all sharp, and then after a week, everybody kind of goes back into their normal mode. I mean, is the first week not a good time to measure it, Jeff? And it's going to be later on when we find out whether or not they can actually pick up the slack across the board?
Well, I feel like these practices they're having now that they're in full pads, that's when you begin to get the full effect of someone like Eric Bieniemy, because then it gets harder, right? Guys are more tired. They're making more mistakes. They're getting more frustrated. And it felt like, to me, I was out there today with my network, and it felt quiet. I didn't feel that same energy that would be out there when he was there, because he'd be getting in somebody's butt over something and screaming about the way things were moving. And it's different when you're playing in pajamas, basically. It's way more different when you're in pads and guys are feeling that burn. And I think that's where he stands out, is really pushing people through that kind of frustration to make sure you're disciplined and you're on point and you know what's expected and you can get it done. I hope whatever is happening with him personally, he's able to manage and gets as much time as he needs to manage it. But yeah, these days that he's not there are going to have an impact on this team, especially these younger guys who need it a lot. I mean, the more time he's away, the more they're not going to get the message that they need to get from someone like him.
I love the term "feeling the burn." Right? It's now a Pilates class. The way it works, feeling the burn.
It was interesting that Joe Blameyer today, so he spoke to the media because this should have been Eric Bieniemy's turn in the rotation, and to give people a sense of it, it's Andy Reid and then a coordinator, and then Andy Reid, then a different coordinator, and then Andy Reid, and then a different coordinator. So today was Eric Bieniemy's first turn at the podium, and they had Joe Blameyer speak, and we've talked to Joe Blameyer plenty of times over the years. First time I've ever heard him like with he's losing his voice, and he commented on it, and you couldn't help but wonder, are you trying to fill some of the quiet that Jeff mentioned? I think Chad O'Shea's been super vocal too. And Dave Merritt's got a voice, a booming voice out there. They've got some assistant positional coaches that have loud presences out there. We've also a couple times I've seen Andy Reid once throw a group out. I've seen him stop a play. I've seen him be a little bit more stern than I've seen him in past training camps as well.
Yeah, I think that's to be expected. They were 6-11 last year. There needs to be some accountability. How about the health of the wide receivers? I was at an event for my daughter, and I had people staring at their phone coming up to me. It's going to be a long year. 2 of the wide receivers went down. There was sheer panic, Jeff, on Saturday when we had Xavier Worthy, shoulder injury, head off in the cart, and then really the Cyrus Allen, the true number one wide out, the number one threat for the Chiefs. At least that's how he's been built up in many Chiefs fans' minds, and he is off to a good camp. Sam and I talked about that a little bit today on the show, but what do you make of the mass hysteria that was going on there for a couple hours?
It's early August, and people tend to lose their minds about stuff. And look, it's both those guys obviously have injuries that they're going to return from. I tend to think Cyrus Allen, he's been a great story. He still has to prove a lot as he gets deeper into training camp about how good he can be as a player in this league. But look, at the end of the day, it's like it's a group filled with a lot of question marks, and it wasn't deep to begin with. And you start thinking about, well, a starter could go down, a player who could be in the rotation could go down. Sam's out there; he sees what's out there in some of those 7-on-7 situations or team drills where you got like Jalen Royals and the Armstrong kid and some of the other people. You're like, this is what it's going to look like, because Rashee Rice isn't doing a whole lot either. So I get it. I don't think it's just because those players went down. It's because this unit they're walking a tightrope with this unit. I'll put it that way. And a lot could go wrong. And a lot of these guys have been banged up in their careers and are still banged up. And at some point, we talk about this offense coming back around and all the stuff Patrick Mahomes is going to do now that he's back on the field. I said it earlier. If these guys aren't ready to go or can't stay healthy, it's going to be a long year.
Yeah. What is the bigger story the Rashee Rice part? Should that be what we're talking about here, Sam? Should that be the freaking out part from the fans?
Well, I mean, I think that's part of it, sure, is the fact that it's padded practices. We're a week and a half into this, and he still isn't participating in 11-on-11 contact drills. And Mansoor Delane's the same way, and L'Jarius Sneed is the same way. And those are three guys who I think are going to factor into this team. So absolutely. But I will say Cyrus Allen's injury looked bad. And, I mentioned this on your show today, Soren, but I saw the look on his face, shaking his head side to side, and then pulling his shirt up over his face to guard his emotions from being publicly seen. That's not a guy who thought he was going to be out 3 days. Like, that's a guy who was fearing the worst. So if he felt it and had talked to trainers for 10 minutes and that was his reaction, I don't think that it was necessarily an overreaction to think that guy could be missing a significant amount of time. It's also not an overreaction to worry about him missing a significant amount of time because of what Jeff said. Like, this is commentary on the rest of the room as much as it is Cyrus Allen. And Cyrus Allen deserves the buzz that he's gotten. I mentioned him on this podcast after his first practice in OTAs that he was impressive to me. I think it's, of course, I joked with Blair Karkoff, missed the first week and a half of the training camp. He was back yesterday. And I said, well, Blair, in the time you were gone, Cyrus Allen went from a 5th-round pick to a Hall of Famer to out for the year to missing a couple of days. And the truth is in the middle, right? I mean, he looks like a guy who could really help an offense, partly because he's been impressive, but partly because this offense has plenty of room for somebody who with his skill set.
Yeah, I think that's part of the reason why Cyrus Allen and Khalil Benson also become the immediate camp darlings, right? Because those are the positions of need. I think that's where the fans gravitate towards. They're not looking at, you can't be a camp darling. Peter Woods can't be the camp darling. We'll get to him later on. But, when you're a first-round draft pick, you have expectations. But where are the darlings going to come? They're going to come at a spot that you think you need. The fans are going to see what they want to see, and they're going to gravitate towards it. But, and I'm not saying Cyrus Allen's not doing anything, but I'm just saying it's just natural to build them up because it's like, hey, we need help here. This is where we need it. So the fans are going to go down that road. Do you have any problem with him covering kicks, Jeff, at this point? Some people have said, why is he out there? He's been your most impressive wideout. Why are you risking him in this situation?
No, because he's a 5th-round pick who has got 4 guys ahead of him on the depth chart. It's somebody's got to do this stuff. He's going to be playing special teams in some fashion or form unless he turns into Julian Edelman. All right, I mean that's where he's heading, and so you have to start getting him into a place where that he understands the expectations and what Dave Toub wants from him. He hasn't earned the right to all of a sudden be running with the first string and thinking that he has no need to be doing kick coverage or punt coverage, whatever he was doing. So I have no problem with that. I mean, guys are going to get hurt. End of the day, again, the bigger problem here is that, and this has been an ongoing problem. Let's take this back to 23. This team has had a hard time understanding how to find receivers and spending too much time believing receivers who can't get it done are worth holding on to. And they're going down this road again, right? Rashee Rice has played in 12 games in 2 years. Xavier Worthy has not really shown a whole lot in his first 2 years. And Tyquan Thornton was a bust before he got here. Those are the 3 best receivers at wide receiver. That's not a great trio to build around for a team that's got a quarterback who's a generational talent.
That's also why I don't think Cyrus Allen's behind 4 guys on the depth chart. And I don't think that's just like, if you say that, it makes people think, you're predicting that Cyrus Allen is going to be like the number 1 wide receiver. Yeah. It's like, no, I think he moves up this depth chart because of what Jeff said. Like the rest of it's not hard to hop Tyquan Thornton on the depth chart. Even his career year last year, he had 300 yards receiving, and that was considered sensational for him because he had been cut, because he had spent the back half of the previous year on the practice squad.
Stay with that. What have you seen from Tyquan Thornton? I mean, they signed him to a 2-year deal. They obviously think there's more there than what he showed. Have we seen any of it on the practice field?
Yeah, I think Tyquan Thornton's been pretty good. Having said that, in the regular season last year, I know this isn't what people want to hear because Tyquan Thornton made plays and was about the only receiver who could make a contested catch for him last year. So I understand why it was so popular to say Tyquan Thornton needs more snaps. Tyquan Thornton needs to play 50 snaps. He didn't separate at a really elite level last year. That's why he didn't play a ton. If you look at the separation metrics, he was like bottom 5 percentile in the league. And it's a credit to him that he found other ways to make plays, that at his size, he's great at tracking the ball. He's obviously got speed, so he can run vertical routes, and he's good at the point of catch. Like, those are 3 tremendous qualities. But Andy Reid's offense was built around getting guys in space, and Tyquan Thornton wasn't in space as frequently, and he's not in space as frequently. Cyrus Allen creates space at the line of scrimmage. Like, he has toasted some people off the line of scrimmage. And Blameyer talked about it today. I asked him about Cyrus Allen. He said what's been impressive is after the snap, he seems to sense where the space is going to be. That's something it's why Jalen Royal still isn't getting a ton of snaps with the ones, is because that typically takes guys a while. And I think the Chiefs are probably a little frustrated that it's taken some receivers even longer than a year. Now, Jalen Royals, I think, has had a much better last 3 or 4 days than he really struggled in the first 2 days, to where you're like, uh-oh. In the last 2 or 3 days, he's been much better because he's had more opportunity. I mean, look, the Chiefs are playing right now without Rashee Rice, Xavier Worthy, and Cyrus Allen. If you're not playing with Patrick Mahomes, I don't see how you feel like you've got a pretty good spot on the roster right now.
Yeah, I'll be up there tomorrow, and so I'm looking forward to seeing, how the receivers look. But I mean, I do think, like, all the, just the cut ups of Cyrus Allen, he looks really springy coming off that line of scrimmage, and he can put the foot down and go either direction and create that kind of space. I don't know that he can get vertical. He can because he can create the space off the line. And look, I mean, I know people are gonna think about the negative aspect of this play I'm going to describe. He had a play on Friday, the day before he got hurt, at the line of scrimmage, where he had already he'd made the one-handed catch over the middle, which he was covered on. He had made a catch on a back shoulder play against which Noah Williams had great coverage on, which to me was like, okay, the quarterback is searching for you even when you're not open. He's testing to see what you're able to do here. But then the next drill, he had a play against Mansoor Delane and just toasted him off the line of scrimmage. And it was a route that he went outside. And Mansoor Delane was kind of stuck in sand at the line of scrimmage on the play. And that was a vertical route. That became a go route. And it wasn't because of his speed. It's because he creates space before the speed comes into play. And he gets the guy to take the step the wrong direction.
Exactly,
That's how he's creating the space, and then he doesn't have to be the fastest guy because he's already got 2 steps on him. I think that's an important part of the equation. Mansoor Delane, yellow jersey still. Andy Reid said he's playing one arm. They're letting him run around. He's, in the huddle even when he's not playing in the contact things. They're doing a bunch of stuff to keep him engaged. Where is your level of concern that Mansoor Delane is not a full go yet?
A scale of 1 to 10 is probably at a 5, because this goes back to the off season, right? I mean, like the mini camp, he was dealing with the same problem, and there's been no clarity on what that problem is. But I find it hard to believe this thing could be lingering over the course of 3 months. And so the upside is that he was out there. From what I saw, he's been involved with the first team, and as far as getting the play calls, being out there when there isn't a whole lot of contact. I watched him do some ball drills with Shamari Connor at the end of practice and saw him go up and catch the ball, high pointing it. So obviously there's mobility in the arm. But yeah, it's a little bit baffling that a player that you're expecting so much of can't have contact, and there's no real prognosis for how long this is going to take. And so, you don't want to have an entire preseason go by where he can't do anything, and then he's getting thrown out there week 1 against Jalen Waddle and Courtland Sutton. Right? You want to have a little more of a run up to that. And so hopefully the yellow jersey comes off in the next week or so and he starts doing more things. And he's always optimistic about guys and health, and we always know that he tends to overstate some things. He says Delane's been playing one-handed. For a guy you traded up to get 6th overall, I want him playing with 2 arms real soon.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, listen, level of concern. I marked it this way on the radio show. I'm concerned when he doesn't play game 1. or isn't in contact by preseason game one. I'm worried when he's not in game 2, and I'm panicked when he doesn't start the opener. Where on those levels, concerned, worried, panicked? Where would you put it for you, Sam, on where you put those dates?
Yeah, I think Jeff classified it as a 5 out of 10. I'd probably have it a little bit higher than that. And to me, it's actually the combination of the fact that he hasn't been terribly impressive in the first week. And so, Andy Reid says that's because he's probably playing one-handed. And the metrics in college showed that he was very good in press coverage. He's not doing press coverage stuff because he's avoiding contact. And right now that they're in pads, he's just not participating in the 11s at all. But he was before they were in pads. And so, if that's the reason that we haven't seen the best from him, then even more so you need to see what he's got. And that's going to require him being healthy and putting on a white jersey instead of a yellow jersey. And Andy Reid has indicated that that's going to happen sooner rather than later. But how many times has a rookie struggled? And we've heard them talk in the next summer after the season about, he missed the first part of camp. He missed, with FAU he missed all the summer stuff. He was behind. He missed all the summer. He was playing catch up.
Oh, and it goes to hell in a hand. That's exactly where I was going. Yeah, I think it's a great point. It's like, are we going to watch a bad year and hear, well, he needed surgery all year?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think he's at that point, but look, I mean, he needs to get a feel for the speed of this game. He needs to get a feel for the contact of this game. And I understand, he really is jogging off of the sideline to get into the huddle, to hear the defensive call during 11 on 11, because he's doing the drills on air like sevens and that sort of thing, and then goes back to that's great. We heard that about Xavier Worthy his rookie year too, and I saw it. He was standing next to Matt Nagy during the play calls. That's great. It's not a replacement for the real thing. It's just the best you can do in the moment.
Yeah, and really, so much of his success is critical to this team's success. I mean, it's just like with the receivers. If Rashee Rice is a mess, then that whole group's going to be a mess. If Mansoor Delane is a mess, I know there's some belief that L'Jarius Sneed, they can pull these potions out and rub him up and massage him and do whatever they got to do to get that knee right that Tennessee wasn't doing. But are we really going to rely on a guy who played 12 games the last 2 years to be productive?
We still talking about Sneed, or are we talking about
L'Jarius?
Christian Fulton? Or we're talking about
Rashee Rice?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, do I have to even mention Christian Fulton now, who's banged up again? And then Noah Williams has been.
Please do, because I think on air, I bet that you would.
I think Soren said during my segment today that Jeff Chadiha would be mentioning Christian Fulton's injury at some point tonight. So here it is. It took 38 minutes.
That's right. My bold prediction: Christian Fulton will not play a whole.
Well, it no longer classifies as bold and daring.
Yeah, that's like a likely to be earned incentive, right? Like it goes against the cap on that one. I'm sorry, you get no credit there.
That's right. And look, here's my thing about Christian Fulton. Here's my little hater spiel about this.
Completely unplanned.
Yeah, exactly.
I hadn't planned on saying this, but here we go.
That's right. So
Off
you
the
got $10 million in this guy, right? Is that what he's supposed to make this year? Was it a 20-year deal?
It was 2 for $20. I don't know where I can look up where it slices.
We'll just say the average, $10 million. And Jalen Moore's got $15 million coming, right?
Mm-hmm.
So $25 million in 2 guys who might not play at all or play a substantial role in your team. That's crazy to me. You can't be a successful football team doing that kind of stuff.
Well, that's.
Do you want to know the cap hit for those two this year?
That's why you go 6-11 last year, right, Jeff?
No, because last year they were on the low end. Now this year we're ramping up. We get the year 2 because they backload everything. So Christian Fulton this year is 13 against the cap.
Okay.
And take a guess at Jalen Moore.
I think his was 10 and then 20.
How about this? That he's in a competition You're pretty close. Not quite that bad. He's in a competition for the starting right tackle job with a guy who was undrafted. He's the 5th highest cap hit for the Chiefs this year at 18,685. 18,685,000 is his cap hit. So they basically have got almost $32 million tied up in those two guys.
That's crazy. That's crazy.
I mean, I think it speaks a little bit to the desperation of trying to keep it going, you know, and they got desperate. I mean, they made themselves believe that Jalen Moore was a real starter, and they're like, there was no real tackle out there, so they went for him. They made themselves believe that, well, you know, maybe he's just had bad luck on Christian Fulton, and so they went for him. I mean, I get why they did it, but your availability is a big part of your ability. I think that's an important part that they need to keep in mind when they head out to spend free agent dollars for sure. All right, we want to talk about the offensive line. We'll get more into Benson. We'll do it after you hear from Italian Delight. Italian Delight was the first restaurant to bring true New York-style pizza to Kansas City almost 50 years ago. They sell whole pies or pizza by the slice, or enjoy their classic strombolis, calzones, and sausage rolls. Sandwich lovers, check out their lineup of hot and cold subs, the combo, the meatball, or the Philly cheesesteak, just to name a few. And don't forget the pasta. Their famous lasagna and classic chicken Alfredo always hit the spot. If you're hungry for lunch, check out their daily lunch specials, starting at under $10. Italian Delight can even cater your next work function or party. Dine in, carry out, or delivery, it's Italian Delight. Located just 3 minutes east of Kansas Speedway at 8145 State Ave in KCK. Check out the menu and order online at ItalianDelightKS.com. Kansas City's own Italian Delight. Your parking lot says a lot about your business. Cracks, potholes, faded striping, and damaged concrete can create safety concerns and leave the wrong impression with customers. Gann Asphalt and Concrete helps Kansas City businesses protect their properties with asphalt paving, seal coating, crack filling, parking lot striping, concrete work, and repairs. Their experienced crews deliver quality workmanship and dependable service on every project. Whether you need routine maintenance or a complete parking lot overhaul, Gann is ready to help you. Get started today with a free estimate at GannAsphalt.com. Gann Asphalt and Concrete, one contractor, all things parking lots. All right, let's talk a little bit about the offensive line. How about that battle? Khalil Benson and Jalen Moore, that's really the only battle along the offensive line. How does it look right now, Sam?
It looks like Khalil Benson's got the leg up. And I thought over the summer, you know, there was two possibilities. Either this was a real battle or you're just trying to give Jalen Moore a kick in the ass. It looks like the former so far because Jalen Moore opened camp with the ones, and that's when I thought, okay, this was just to get the guy motivated. It's been Khalil Benson, or it's been a rotation every other day since. It's not been Jalen Moore with the ones in any of the days since the first day. And yesterday, Khalil Benson struggled. Today, I thought he had a good day. And I think that's going to be a telling thing for Andy Heck and Andy Reid is this guy is going to struggle. What's the response to when he does struggle? But the real question to me is, where does that leave the Chiefs' offensive line? Khalil Benson was not only not drafted, he was not signed after the draft. He had to try out to even get to summer with the team, which happened, of course, to be with the Chiefs. So, you know, this is, if he makes it, just making the team would be a hell of a story. Starting for the Kansas City Chiefs and protecting for Patrick Mahomes on a rookie tryout a week after the draft is an incredible thing.
Yeah, it would, though, Jeff, set them up if they've got a guy on a bare minimum contract that can start at right tackle. And listen, I think people need to get out of their minds that, you know, he's going to be Mitchell Schwartz or something like that, right? Like,
is that what you were saying?
No, people aren't saying that, but I think we have this feeling when a guy comes out of nowhere to run with the ones that it must mean that he's just fantastic, that he has just blown everybody out of the water. I would say that he's Andrew Wiley. Like that's what I would hope for, is that you get a good, solid player that, you know, 4 years in, the Chiefs go, well, we're spending our money over here on these other stars that we've got. And another team that's desperate for offensive linemen goes, well, we'll pay you we'll give you the Jalen Moore contract. I mean, I don't think Andrew Wiley or Nick Allegretti, who got a lot more money than the Chiefs, wanted to pay either one of them to go play for the Commanders. I don't think anyone's going, wow, we got two Hall of Famers here, right? But if Khalil Benson can be, you know, most of Jawan Taylor when he didn't get a penalty but not have the penalties and cost nothing, It gives you a war chest to go out and try to solve wide receiver with a real big time guy. Like hitting on those, Tyreek Hill's value was obviously his great play, but also for 4 years he made nothing, right? Like when those guys in those first contracts, they open it up for you to be able to keep the big boys. And so this is a key moment. I mean, I can see why they would push hard to try to get him to win the job because, the money on Jalen Moore is spent. You're going to keep him. He's going to be a swing tackle at least. But if Khalil Benson's your starter moving forward, you're in good shape.
Yeah, it wouldn't surprise me if that is what's driving this, the sense of like this could be a boon for them financially if he can hold up at that position. And again, I'm always a little bit squeamish about getting excited about any offensive or defensive lineman until they do a lot more in pads. And so I know we're only 3 days or 2 days into this, that they've been doing things in pads. But yeah, I think it's exciting to think about the possibilities of him, and he certainly looks the part. I mean, he's a big guy. He's got the long arms, and he played at a big school that won a national championship. So a lot to like about him. And if you've got him and a second-year Josh Simmons together, that's a really good situation to be in. But again, I also wonder to say more about the other guys than it says about Khalil Benson. And if that's the case, then I will be a little more cautious about getting too excited about him right now.
I think he will be. Kenneth Walker's a major signing, of course, but I think in preseason, like the three of us, for example, the guy we're going to be watching is Khalil Benson on offense. Like that's going to be where we're focused because what Jeff just said is the question: is he winning the job or is Jalen Moore losing the job? And that's
a great point.
That's what Andy Hecken and Andy Reid are assessing.
Yeah. We were talking a lot about the right tackle, but how about over on the left side, Sam? What do we think about where Josh Simmons looks weight-wise and whether or not he's getting pushed around?
Yeah, I think he looks great. I really think that Josh Simmons has had a great 10 days of camp. I do think that we've even seen the attempts in one-on-ones that the way teams are going to attack him at the edge is they're going to try and push him. Like they're going to try and bull rush him. And it's because of his size. I'll tell you, his footwork looks terrific. And the way that other linemen on the Chiefs talk about Josh Simmons, like you can tell that it's genuine. The way Trey Smith talks about him, Creed Humphrey talk about him, and talking about him having all the talent in the world. I mean, I asked George Karlaftis about him, and he said he's as strong as an ox and he's got feet like a ballerina. That's not a cliche canned answer. Like that's somebody who's like, this guy's tough to go against. But I do think the real test is going to be, it's not going to be another team's not going to line up R. Mason Thomas against him. They're going to line up like they're going to put Chris Jones on the edge and say, you go get this guy. You bull rush this guy.
Yeah. Go ahead, Jeff.
I was just going to say, I feel like the best thing about Josh Simmons right now is that he's in a position where nobody has to talk about him the way they talked about him last year at this time.
Great point. Yeah.
And he was the savior. Everybody was following him the way we're going to look at Khalil Benson to see if he could handle it. If he could, the knee was all right. If he could live up to the hype, if he could help them get back to the Super Bowl and maybe win it this time around. Now you got Mahomes with the knee. You got Kenneth Walker here, all the receiver stuff. He's like the 11th storyline in camp. Like I wasn't even thinking about him when I was watching practice today not because he's stabilized or he doesn't deserve attention, but it's because there's bigger things to worry about. And I just feel like we'll never know what happened with him and why he disappeared. But being a 21, 22-year-old kid coming into this situation last year, you had to know he was thinking about a lot of things, but a lot of pressure on himself. And I imagine it's a lot easier to be out there right now.
You said Simmons was impressive, Sam. Who else?
Just offensive line, or are you talking just
anywhere
across the board? Yeah, I mean, I think Peter Woods has been really good in the one-on-one stuff. He really is quick off the line of scrimmage. I mentioned earlier Chris Wallace getting beat, but I think he's had a good camp. Like I think the Chiefs will be better in slot coverage. Really under the radar guys. I think Xavier. I always screw up his name, but Wonkpa has been really good. The undrafted free agent guy at Iowa, I think I could see a path to him making the team. He's very clearly the force safety. Cyrus Allen does look good. I mean, I'm not adding a name to anybody's list because he's already on everybody's list.
No running backs mentioned there. I mean, Kenneth Walker.
Kenneth Walker is I mean, I've joked about this, but there's more than a hint of seriousness to it. They could have brought in an average running back, and I'd be like, "Whoa, look at that running back!" Because of what I've watched for the last.
What about the other guys? Like we expected from Kenneth Walker. What about some of the other guys?
Well, let me just say real quick on Kenneth Walker. What stands out about him is not his straight line speed because he is fast, but he changes direction at a speed without like breaking stride. And people know the choppy steps that Isaiah Pacheco took when he changed direction. Like he's going to make people miss, and that'll be a different sight for Chiefs running backs. It's been interesting. Brashard Smith has gotten a lot of run as the number 2 running back, and that was not something I anticipated going in. And I think it's been him and DeMercado kind of battling for that running back 2. And I think when you draft a running back in the 5th round, a lot of people probably had hopes that might be Emmett Johnson. But to me, he's pretty clearly 4th in line right now in the early going.
Okay. There's a little time for him to step up. But Peter Wood, you like the quickness. I mean, that's a big.
I think he's looked really quick, and
he's got some strength too, doesn't he?
Yeah, he's heavier than he was in the summer. I think he's gained like about 10 pounds since the summer. Of course, the knock on Peter Woods was his arm length, his height, things that are at a very lower percentile than the Chiefs have had in that position. They've had guys that aren't huge at that position either, at least coming out of the draft. You can think about Colin Saunders and that type, but his quickness really is like, I mean, you can't say next level because you've been watching Chris Jones for so long, but it's not, him and Cyrus Tonga get after the quarterback in a very different way.
Yeah, Steve Smith, who was with me on the set today, spent a lot of time on the field with Brett Veach and the coaches, and Peter Woods' name came up a lot. And they felt like he was a guy who was playing out of position in college and people didn't see the strengths, and that he's definitely turned some heads in the last couple of days.
What's interesting is I think people get really fascinated with the rookies, which they should. But if it wasn't for the questions about Mansoor Delane over the first 10 days, I think people would be talking to them about, like, if they just didn't have that 6th pick because they've been picking at the last end of the draft I think people would be saying, wow, this rookie class looks really good. Yeah. Because Peter Woods looks good. I think R. Mason Thomas has flashed. He hasn't been as consistent as Peter Woods, but I think he's flashed. You talk about Cyrus Allen. I mean, I think Emmett Johnson, if he doesn't factor in the offense, will factor in kick returns of some sort. Like
Kennedy.
Kennedy, I think is behind a couple guys at slot corner, but I actually think Nussmeier looks as good as Justin Fields does, and now that hasn't been a terribly high bar. But I wonder if that ever turns into a competition. I don't know that it will. But they got some guys, they got some rookies that I think, and then of course Cleo Benson is part of this class too. He's not drafted, but he's and Wongpa that I mentioned. They got some rookies who I think are going to play.
All right, I think that's encouraging for Chiefs fans. How about the conditioning of Travis Kelce? I've heard. We saw a video that most people thought he looked like he was out of shape. I commented on the video. It's out there. You look at it and you're like, okay, he doesn't look like he's walking, and the shirt kind of seems like maybe there's a bit of a gut hanging there. And then I've heard people that blow back that, no, that was AI generated. That wasn't real. What kind of shape is Travis Kelce in, Sam?
I think he looks like a guy who's, what is he, 36? Yeah. I didn't expect Travis Kelce to come in like with a new acceleration at age 36. So,
well, what does he look like? Is he in shape? Does he look like he got under a bar and lifted some weights? And did he?
A bar like a weightlifting bar,
I think of getting
like a bar with like alcohol and liquor.
When we bench, no, I should specify. I'm sure there was an open bar at the wedding.
Exactly.
I'm talking about curls, not the 12-ounce curls. I'm thinking more. What is he in shape or not? Because there seems to be this conflict. I see this Twitter fight going on as to whether or not he's in shape.
I guess I'd fall somewhere in the middle of that. I don't know that he looks. Last year, I think he came in and you said, wow, he's in great shape. 2 years ago, I think he came in and said, wow, he really doesn't look like he's in great shape. I don't seem swayed either direction, I guess, which probably means he falls somewhere in the middle.
Okay. Is that a concern?
He's never been an Adonis type guy. He's when he stops playing, he's probably going to blow up, right?
I don't know about blowing up. I He might, though. I wouldn't if all of a sudden we're like, holy cow, man, Taylor, leave him at home. I wouldn't fall out of my chair. But the thing that I think of is, I remember George Brett at like 33, 34, whenever 1985 rolled around, he had an MVP caliber season. I think he finished second in the MVP. And that was a year that he realized he was getting old, and he really went to work in that offseason, and it made a real difference in his play. And so I've always, I look at guys when you start to get towards the end, like that haven't been, Mr. Workout guy, right? Like the workout guys that start to get old, they've already done everything they can. But there's another level to go to. And sometimes, George Brett really went to that next level and prolonged his career and played into his 40s. I'm not suggesting that Travis Kelce is going to play into his 40s, but I'm always intrigued to see if somebody's going to really put in that extra effort in the offseason and come back and be like, okay, he worked harder than he's ever worked before. That's not this year, as from what I hear from Sam.
Yeah, I think it's really hard.
You'll be up there tomorroa. You'll come.
I won't be shy. I won't be shy.
I know you won't be. I guess with certain guys I've checked, you certainly check in on that sort of, and he should be on my list. I just haven't really. He's kind of blended in training camp in the early going, which shouldn't be surprising for a guy who's 36.
Yeah, he's not popping, is what you're saying. Sam McDowell.
No, he's not leading the team in catches.
Okay.
And I will say, I don't know that the rest of the tight end room has had a great camp. I don't know that. Noah Gray has dropped a couple passes. Jake Brenningstool has been a favorite target of the second and third quarterbacks. So I wonder if maybe he'll start getting a few more looks.
That'll be interesting. All right.
And I know he loves football, and he's had a phenomenal career.
He being Kelce or Brenningstool?
Kelce.
Okay, just to make sure.
But
do we have a Brenningstool item on our rundown?
That's right.
I didn't see one.
But he's been around for so long, and knowing guys who played this long, even the stars, man, it's like it may have sounded great to say I want to play football again back in February and March whenever he made that decision, but you start getting out here in training camp and having to work at it, and it's not as glamorous. The team is not as successful. Like you feel that somewhat. I don't think it wouldn't surprise me if you gave him some true sermon. He said, this is a little bit harder than I thought it was going to be right now. On my body, on my mentality. I had a long summer, got married, big wedding. It's like sometimes we act like these guys are robots. It's just like this emotional stuff going on in his life-changing stuff. And it's and I think he probably, along with everything else he's doing, he probably overestimated what this was going to be like. And so I think watching him walk around, practice a little bit, he looked more like a guy who was trying to get himself into, not into shape, but get his mind into the place it has to be to continue to play at a high level or a decent level.
Yeah, we'll see. Is that us watching him slide off the cliff? Or is that a guy pacing himself for the big burst when the regular season comes? We're going to find out. Listen, you can find out about our friends at Gann Asphalt and Concrete, Kansas City's best for more than 30 years, helping KC businesses maintain safe, professional-looking properties. Whether you need asphalt, paving, crack sealing, concrete repairs, or parking lot striping, Gann delivers quality work you can trust. Visit GannAsphalt.com to get a free estimate. And our friends at Italian Delight, famous lasagna, classic chicken Alfredo. They're the people who brought true New York-style pizza to Kansas City 50 years ago. Strombolis, calzone, sausage rolls, hot subs, and daily lunch special starting at under $10, just a few miles east of the Speedway at 8145 State Ave. Order online at ItalianDelightKS.com. For Jeff Chadiha, for Sam McDowell, I'm Soren Petro saying thank you very much for joining us here on the Red, Gold, and Bold podcast.